Hi, welcome back to the channel. You may notice that Lou isn't doing his usual intro spiel, and that's because he's very luckily on his holidays. So I thought I'd put a short video out there, some things in the ZR1. I know a lot of you are wanting a drive out in the ZR1 and that kind of thing, so we're going to take you out on a drive. That might be fun. The thing to get out of the way is I don't have a fancy camera or a fancy computer or any of that kind of stuff. So the editing skills might be a little bit rawer this week because I'm editing it all on my telephone. And if I'd have said that to someone in 1990, when this was made, that I'm editing a video on a telephone, they would have thought I'd gone completely mad. Anyway, so let's have a look, just to refresh you where we were at to the ZR1 last week. We've got a new seal here now on both sides. Me and Lou fitted that one, and then Lou's gone on his holidays and I fitted the other side and the internal seal as well. This side was a little bit trickier because each one of these screw heads was completely destroyed, so we need some nice OEM looking screws. It's got no bottom screws in the door card, but the door cards are so stiff that you probably could get away with it, you know, if you really wanted to. We are going to fit some, but it's actually quite a good quality door card. Something that does slightly concern me is the steering column lock. Is that the same sort of problem that you get on a C5, where it will lock on and then continue in whatever direction you are currently going, which would end disastrously, of course? Maybe it's not a problem on a C4. If anyone knows, let us know. Is there a column lock bypass thing where you stop that happening that we need to do? And with these new seals, the doors take quite a lot more of a slam to shut, but that is what it is. So now our main points of concern are this oil leak, which I think, and Lou agrees, is quite possibly coming from this, I think it's an oil cooler feed line. I think it's the top one, and that seems to be where it could be coming from. See, I thought originally it was a steering rack, but it seems to be running from the top. So we'll start from the top and work down. And the other obvious issue is my fuel line repair, which is not brilliant, but the garage does not smell of fuel at all. And if there was any fuel leak, you would smell it, but maybe I'm just nose blind to it for various reasons. Yeah, it's possible I just can't smell it because everything smells of fuel. Who knows? And here are all the old seals ready to be disposed of. You did a good job there. You kept it fairly dry for 20 years. Well done, seals. Not a bad job. I'm also going to tell you about HP tuners and the things that have been changed on this car and some of the features on that piece of software. It's a really cool piece of software. I am no tuning expert at all. I've got a rough idea that it needs fuel and air and it needs the right amounts of them at different engine speeds, and that's about where my knowledge ends. With the help of Andy, massive help, and his friend Luke, who lives in Germany, we've got this car running pretty nice and it feels like the fueling numbers are safe, it's behaving well, feels a little bit faster, but is feeling safe. I've also had a problem with this car where I've had an intermittent starting problem that's got gradually more persistent, shall we say. And every time I try to do some testing on it, it would just fire up. So maybe in the morning, I'd get in it, it would just turn, nothing would happen. And I think, okay, I'll go on a bike or whatever, or in the Boxster. And then I've got home and I've turned the key and it started up straight away. So I haven't really been able to do any testing on the car. I thought it might be a dodgy starter motor, but that's new, so it shouldn't be. Thought it might be the ignition barrel, but again, that was put in a couple of years ago, a new GM original product, so shouldn't be that either. And the third thing that it can often be in this chain is the VATS relay. So I looked into that. The next time I got that fault, I got a piece of jumper wire and I bypassed the VATS relay. And that causes the car to fire up straight away, no bother. So make sure it's definitely not in gear before you try to fire it up, otherwise it will go shooting off down the road. Cold start. This is the vehicle anti-theft system relay, and what it does is, once the computer is happy that you've got the right resistor in the key, your clutch pedal is down, if you've got an automatic, it's in park, it will allow this relay to energise and put power to the starter. But if something is wrong back that way, then it won't allow you to energise the starter. So as I say, I'm pretty sure it's not the ignition key, because that was brand new, we fitted a new one. And I'm pretty sure it's not the starter motor. Pretty sure it's this VATS relay that's the problem. Now if you jump the blue wire to this brownie coloured red wire, okay, that's that one, and then try to electrocute yourself at the same time. Simple as that. Whenever you change anything like heads, cam, intake, you need a tune. It's really tricky to actually find anyone to tune a C5 in the UK. You can find plenty of places to tune modern Audis and BMWs, that sort of thing, or even tweak your carburetors. But finding someone to tune an LS is extremely difficult. There's probably only 2 or 3 places in the UK that do it. And the main problem is nobody has the software or the interface to be able to tune them. So if you have that set up, you'll find it much easier to get someone to tune your car. So this is the interface I use. It's an HP Tuners MPVI. They've got MPVI2 and MPVI3. They all work on the same software, but this early model does have a bit of a drawback in that you cannot log an external input, such as a wideband O2 sensor. Not without doing a bit of clever electronics anyway. So I think there is a way, if you use one of the unused channels on the OBD2, you can use that to log wideband AFR. So what we were forced to do is use this wideband O2 sensor with the gauge alone, and then read what number in various conditions the air fuel mixture is in. As the numbers get lower, you're enriching the mixture, there's more fuel in the exhaust, and as the numbers go higher, that means the mixture is leaner, less fuel in the exhaust. At idle or sort of cruise, you're looking for around 14.7. For moderate throttle, you're looking at somewhere in the 13s, somewhere like half to 3/4 throttle, and you start to get your foot in it a little bit. And then when you're at wide open throttle, it should be around the 12s, about 12.6. I think it's ideal from my understanding. And when I have more in-depth tuning done, I'm going to hopefully log it directly into the computer so you can map it a bit more easily. So HP Tuners is really easy to use. Just plug it into your laptop, and then take the OBD connector and plug that into your diagnostics port down here, which I need 2 hands for. Okay, so when you open HP Tuners for the first time, you'll be greeted with a screen that looks a little bit like this. And the first thing you need to do is read your vehicle. Once you've read your vehicle, this will take about 2 or 3 minutes, you need to save your map and make sure you back it up. That's the most important thing. Don't lose your base map. Just in case you make changes that spoil it and you can't remember what you've done, blah, 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 you've got a backup. What I'm going to do is open up one of my previous files. Actually, that's the latest one. And once you've read your car, you'll end up with a window that looks a bit like this. In here, you've got all the various modules that you can read. The other really cool thing you can do is compare your map to another map. So if I compare my latest map to my base tune, and you can see here, every time a change has been made, I have created a new save file. So if I think that's made it worse, I can go back to a previous save. So if I compare it to my absolute stock tune, we now have this set of windows open here, and that allows us to compare and see what's been changed. But the areas where we've been interested in changing are the idle, because when you get a new cam that's a bit lumpier, one thing you often want to do is increase the idle speed. So I've increased the idle speed by 50 RPM up to 32 degrees Celsius, and then 100 RPM above that. That's my original RPM settings, and that's my new RPM settings. It just means that it idles more smoothly and it's not trying to hunt up and down. Yeah, that helped quite a lot actually. Here are some other things we've changed. So we've changed things with the MAF. We've told it basically it's getting more air because we've got better flowing heads. The car's got a better flowing intake, and it needs to know that. I'm no tuning expert, so I'm not going to delve into what those things actually do. The other thing that's been changed is obviously the spark conditions. So with higher compression heads, you're going to get more pre-ignition. So actually what we have done is essentially copy a Z06 ignition map, and for the vast majority we've actually given it less timing because it's going to be suffering from more pre-ignition. The final thing I'm going to quickly show you is something that I think many C5 owners will be interested in, and that is the fans. And if you want to change your fans to make your car run cooler, this is an alternative to putting a different thermostat in there, which can probably go just a little bit too far. What I have done is brought down the temperature in which the fans turn on. So if I was to compare it to my previous setting, I've made it 8 degrees cooler as the turn on point and 3 degrees cooler for the high speed fan. And that just means that now hopefully the car will run cooler, be less susceptible to heat soak. When cars get heat soaked, they aggressively pull timing and you lose a lot of power. So it's one way of just preventing it getting into that point. Once you've made the changes you want to do, you need to write your vehicle, and this is the stage where you'll be prompted to provide credits to unlock your car. Now the unlock is stored inside the actual interface. So if you've unlocked your car, you haven't unlocked it on every HP Tuner's interface, you've only unlocked it on yours. That's what I understand. The credits are also stored on your interface. So when you sync up your web browser with your interface, it knows that it has credits attached to it. The other bit of software that's quite interesting is the VCM scanner. And the reason that's a useful device is you can log just about every parameter on your car's engine, what it's doing at all times, so you can see live where everything is. Tables we're particularly interested in are Spark Advance, and across the top of here it's the same for all of them. These numbers are the RPM, so 2.0 would be 2000 RPM, and the absolute manifold pressure is essentially how much throttle you have applied. So the larger the number, the more open the throttle is at that point. You can also see things like spark, where it's being pulled. If you've got any, I'm not going to say that word just in case YouTube flag it, but if you've got any knock sensed, it will pull timing to keep the engine safe. So if I was seeing knock here, then the thing that we would do is pull timing in this location right here, this manifold pressure at this RPM, tell it not to put so much timing in so it doesn't have any pre-ignition anymore. These numbers might look a bit wild, and it's because this is a fresh map and a first log, so it takes a while for the car to learn what to do with the fueling. That's why the long-term fuels are kind of all over the place. The other thing you might see is, oh look, there's a fault. That's because it's only got 3 of the 4 lambda sensors attached. One of them is the wideband that is put into the car so it can read how the fueling is doing, generally speaking. direct comparisons to how this car drives compared to how it did, because I haven't driven it as a stock car since October last year. But it feels way punchier now, that's for sure, and it feels like the other cars that I own have got slower, if that makes sense. I guess we'll have to get it to a dyno, and then we'll know for sure. A little bit of a pull opportunity. So as promised, we're going to go for a drive in the ZR1. I'm not going to say a lot, it's not going to be a car review. I'm just going to let the car speak for itself. I'm going to drive down one of my favourite local roads and you can come along for the ride. So at this point I'll say thank you for watching, please like and subscribe. Cheers.